In a world where power is absolute and freedom is but a whisper, one woman rules with an iron grip, shaping a society where conformity is key. Behind the facade of unity, unseen controls ensure every thought aligns with the state's desires. But a young woman dares to question the very fabric of their world. In a society where even thoughts are subtly guided, rebellion brews in the shadows. The Queen of Hearts. Coming this fall, discover where your true convictions lie. Prelude, the revelation of the protocol. In the shadowy recesses of an ancient library, hidden beneath the glittering city of Serendel, an unsettling discovery was made. The dim light from a single flickering lamp revealed a worn manuscript, its pages brittle with age. This manuscript, known as the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Project 2028, was a relic of a time shrouded in secrecy and intrigue. Its emergence was no mere accident, it was the result of a determined search for the truth about the enigmatic Learned Elders and their audacious plans. The discovery of the Protocols was a turning point. Within these yellowed pages lay the blueprint for a radical and deeply unsettling vision for the future. An ideology so extreme that it threatened to unravel the very fabric of society. This vision, known as gyno-fascism, proposed a world where the power dynamics were irrevocably altered, and femininity was enshrined as the highest authority. Section 1. The Great Awakening. In the year 2028, a covert group known as the Learned Elders emerged from the shadows with a revolutionary agenda. Their aim was nothing less than to dismantle the existing societal structures and replace them with a new order where women held absolute power. The Learned Elders were not just figures of authority, they were the architects of an entire way of life, a radical departure from the past. The Protocols described gyno-fascism as more than a mere political movement, it was a complete overhaul of societal norms. The manifesto outlined the core principles of this new world. Mandatory emotional intelligence. According to the Learned Elders, all men would be required to participate in workshops designed to teach empathy, intuition, and emotional understanding. These sessions would determine their social standing and access to resources, creating a hierarchy based on emotional competency. It was a radical shift, a world where emotional skills defined one's place in society. The purge of mansplaining. The manifesto introduced a new legal framework to criminalize the act of mansplaining. Special tribunals were to be established, with the power to impose penalties such as public apologies and mandatory sensitivity courses. The era of dismissiveness and condescension was to be eradicated, making way for a new standard of communication. The Council of Makeup and High Heels, an elite council, exclusively female, would set the national standards for cosmetics and fashion. Compliance with these standards would be mandatory for all public appearances, ensuring that everyone adhered to a uniform and meticulously curated standard of beauty and style. The equalization of height. In a bizarre twist of equality, men taller than 6 feet would be required to wear specially designed shoes to reduce their height to the national average. Those who failed to comply would face fines and mandatory training in heel walking. It was a peculiar attempt to create a level playing field, quite literally. Section 2. Economic restructuring. Under the reign of the Learned Elders, the economy would be transformed to prioritize industries traditionally associated with women. The new economic order would feature the Department of Knitting and Craftsmanship. The economy would pivot to focus on knitting, sewing, and other crafts. Subsidies and grants would support businesses in these areas, and the nation's GDP would be measured by the output of handmade goods. The value of the economy would be reflected in scarves and quilts, rather than traditional industrial metrics. The Matriarchal Stock Exchange, MSE, a new stock exchange would be established, evaluating companies based on their adherence to feminist ideals. Male CEOs would be required to undergo bi-weekly sensitivity training sessions to retain their positions, blending corporate success with ideological conformity. The abolition of traditional sports would be replaced with synchronized swimming, interpretive dance, and competitive cupcake decorating. These events would be broadcast globally, and participation would be mandatory for men between 18 and 35. The change reflected a broader cultural shift towards activities deemed more feminine. Section 3. The Cultural Revolution. The Learned Elders aimed to overhaul cultural norms through a series of bold initiatives. The Hollywood Reformation. Films would need to pass the Bechdel Plus test, ensuring that women not only engaged in conversations about topics other than men, but also participated in traditionally masculine activities, such as engineering or complex problem-solving. The reinvention of literature, classic literary works would be rewritten to reflect gyno-fascist ideals. Books like Moby Dick would feature female captains, and War and Peace would center on knitting circles during wartime. The Department of Heroic Women, monuments and statues would be erected to honor women's achievements, real or imagined. National holidays would be renamed, and history textbooks revised to highlight these contributions. Section 4. The political landscape. The political landscape would be redefined to align with gyno-fascist principles. The gender-balanced Senate, a new legislative body, would feature an equal number of male and female senators. However, male senators would be equipped with silence buttons, ensuring they only spoke when permitted by their female counterparts. The Ministry of Apologies, this department would collect and catalogue apologies from men, holding monthly apology parades where men publicly expressed remorse for historical grievances. The Supreme Court of Hair and Fashion, this judicial body would settle disputes related to fashion and personal grooming, overseeing all matters of style with authority. Section 5. The education system. The education system under gyno-fascism would focus on nurturing a new generation of enlightened citizens. The Academy of Homemaking Arts, male students would be required to take courses in cooking, cleaning, and child-rearing, preparing them for supportive roles in the gyno-fascist society. The School of Emotional Regulation, boys would undergo rigorous training in managing their emotions, focusing on eliminating traits such as aggression and competitiveness. The Institute of Feminine Studies, advanced degrees would cover topics like the history of handbags and the psychology of shopping, embedding gyno-fascist ideology into academia. Queen of Heart. Chapter 1. The Land of Serendel. The city of Serendel stretched across the horizon like a vast, shimmering tapestry of steel and glass, a monument to power and control. Towering skyscrapers reached up towards a cloudless sky, casting long shadows over streets teeming with life and activity. Despite the city's seemingly harmonious facade, an air of tension and unease lingered just beneath the surface. For in Serendel, equality had taken a backseat to something far more insidious, a regime known as gyno-fascism. Serendel was a place of rigid structure, where roles were sharply defined and meticulously enforced. Women held the reins of authority, wielding their influence over every aspect of society. Men, on the other hand, occupied the subordinate positions, stripped of autonomy and ambition. It was a world where femininity was celebrated as the ultimate virtue, and masculinity was redefined to fit the new societal norms. The philosophy of gyno-fascism was founded on the premise of female superiority, a concept that had been twisted and perverted into a tool of domination. The state was governed by the Council of Elders, a group of powerful women who dictated the rules and regulations of Serendel with an iron grip. Their mantra was one of peace through control, harmony through suppression, a paradox that formed the backbone of their regime. In the heart of the city lay the Central Plaza, a sprawling square filled with fountains and meticulously manicured gardens. It was here that the citizens of Serendel gathered for state-sanctioned events, their faces masked with expressions of compliance and conformity. Surveillance drones hovered above like mechanical sentinels, their watchful eyes ever vigilant. As the sun cast its golden glow over the plaza, the city was abuzz with preparations for the annual gyno-fascist gala. Banners bearing the regime's emblem, a stylized heart surrounded by thorns, fluttered in the breeze, their symbolism a stark reminder of the dual nature of the state's rule. The gala was a celebration of the regime's power, a display of grandeur that masked the sinister undertones of control and manipulation. In this world, individuality was stifled, and dissent was met with swift retribution. The state's reach extended into every aspect of daily life, from the education system to the workplace. The regime prided itself on its ability to shape society according to its ideals, often employing technology as a means of control. Neural implants were common, marketed as tools for empathy enhancement but secretly used to monitor and influence thoughts. Against this backdrop of oppression, whispers of rebellion echoed through the streets. A group known as the Heart, composed of individuals disillusioned by the regime's iron grip, had emerged in defiance of the state's control. They operated in the shadows, their meetings held in secret locations across the city. The Heart was a diverse collection of citizens who believed in true equality, advocating for a world where power was shared, not hoarded. Amidst the sea of conformity, a young girl named Ellie Brighton navigated the complexities of this world. With her tousled auburn hair and determined gaze, Ellie was a symbol of quiet resistance. She moved through the streets of Serendel with purpose, her heart heavy with the weight of the regime's oppressive rule. Ellie's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, a tapestry woven with threads of frustration and hope. She had watched as her family and friends succumbed to the state's influence, their once vibrant spirits dulled by the regime's machinations. But Ellie was different. Her spirit was unyielding, fueled by a desire for change. The story began here, in a city teetering on the brink of revolution. As the gyno-fascist gala loomed on the horizon, Ellie found herself drawn into the heart of the rebellion. Her fate intertwined with the destiny of Serendel. The stage was set, the players in place. In a city where hearts were both weapon and shield, the battle for freedom was about to unfold. Chapter 2: The Regime's Dance. The morning sun bathed Serena Brighton's penthouse apartment in a warm golden light. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the breathtaking view of Serendel, the city's sleek towers piercing the sky like majestic monuments of progress. Her home was a study in modern elegance, filled with minimalist furniture and adorned with artwork that celebrated the regime's ideal. Serena stood before a full-length mirror, adjusting the lapel of her perfectly tailored suit. Her reflection revealed a woman of striking beauty and composure. Her hair, a cascade of silken blonde, was tied in a sleek bun. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, were a piercing blue, exuding both confidence and authority. Everything about Serena Brighton was immaculate, from her polished appearance to her unwavering dedication to the Council of Elders. Serena was the epitome of a gyno-fascist loyalist, a rising star within the regime. Her career in the Department of Social Harmony had skyrocketed, thanks to her unyielding commitment to the state's philosophy. She was a favorite of the Chancellor herself, often praised for her contributions to maintaining order and ensuring the regime's vision was executed flawlessly. As Serena scrutinized her reflection, she couldn't help but recall the mantra that guided her every action: order and control breed peace and prosperity. It was a belief she held dear, one that had been instilled in her since she was a child. To Serena, the regime was a beacon of progress, a guardian of stability in a world teetering on the edge of chaos. Her morning routine was precise and methodical, much like her approach to her work. After a quick breakfast of green tea and a perfectly poached egg, she donned her signature red coat, a symbol of her allegiance to the state, and stepped out into the bustling streets of Serendel. The city pulsed with life around her, a testament to the regime's efficient governance. Serena's destination was the Central Administration Building, an imposing structure that served as the nerve center of the council's operations. Its facade was adorned with banners displaying the regime's emblem, the heart surrounded by thorns, a reminder of the protective barrier that the state represented against disorder. As Serena entered the building, she was greeted by the respectful nods of her colleagues and the brisk efficiency of a well-oiled machine. The Department of Social Harmony occupied the top floors, where Serena's office commanded a view of the city she worked tirelessly to maintain. Her assistant, Lydia, greeted her with a stack of reports and a cup of herbal tea. "Good morning, Director Brighton," Lydia said with an air of deference. "Good morning, Lydia," Serena replied, taking the reports and the tea. "Anything urgent I should be aware of?" "There's been an increase in dissenting chatter among certain groups," Lydia informed her, lowering her voice. "The Heart is becoming more active, and the Council is concerned about their growing influence." Serena's eyes narrowed, her lips tightening into a thin line. The Heart, the mere mention of the rebel group was enough to stir her ire. They were a thorn in the regime's side, a disruptive force that threatened the stability she had dedicated her life to preserving. "I'll handle it," Serena said firmly. "We cannot allow their subversion to take root. The Council expects results, and I intend to deliver." With that, she dismissed Lydia and settled into her office, immersing herself in the reports. Each document was a testament to the regime's vigilance, detailing surveillance data and intelligence gathered on suspected dissenters. Serena's fingers skimmed across the pages with practiced efficiency, her mind working tirelessly to unravel the web of rebellion. Order must be maintained. This was her guiding principle. the foundation of her work. The state's power was absolute, and Serena was determined to uphold it at all costs. The idea of rebellion was anathema to her, a betrayal of everything she held dear. Later that afternoon, Serena returned home to find her daughter, Ellie, sitting at the kitchen table, a notebook spread open before her. Ellie's auburn hair fell in soft waves around her face, her expression one of quiet determination. She was a bright girl, filled with curiosity and questions, a trait Serena admired but often found challenging. "Mother, can we talk?" Ellie asked, looking up from her notebook. Her tone was cautious, as if she were treading on delicate ground. Serena set her briefcase down and joined Ellie at the table. "Of course, darling, what's on your mind?" Ellie hesitated, her fingers tracing the edges of the notebook. "It's about the state's policies on emotional intelligence. I just don't understand why we need to mandate these workshops for everyone. Isn't empathy something that should come naturally?" Serena's gaze hardened slightly, a flicker of frustration passing through her eyes. "Ellie, the workshops are designed to foster a harmonious society. Emotional intelligence is a cornerstone of our ideology. It ensures that everyone can contribute to the community in a meaningful way. But it feels like we're forcing people into roles they might not fit into," Ellie argued, her voice gaining a hint of defiance. "Shouldn't people have the freedom to choose their own paths?" "Freedom without structure leads to chaos, Ellie," Serena replied, her tone firm. "The state's guidance ensures that everyone has a place and a purpose. It's about creating balance." Ellie's expression shifted, a mix of frustration and disbelief. "I just think there's more to life than following orders and fitting into molds. We're losing sight of individuality." Serena leaned back in her chair, regarding Ellie with a mixture of pride and exasperation. She admired her daughter's spirit, but she couldn't allow such dissenting thoughts to take root. Not in her family. You're young, Ellie. In time you'll understand the importance of the regime's principles. They have brought us peace and prosperity," Serena said, her voice softening slightly. Ellie lowered her gaze, her fingers still on the notebook. The conversation was at an impasse, a chasm between mother and daughter that neither could bridge. For Serena, loyalty to the regime was paramount. For Ellie, the quest for individuality and freedom was a growing concern. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Serena's resolve remained unshaken. She had a duty to the state, a responsibility to maintain order and control. Yet beneath the surface, doubts lingered, tiny seeds of uncertainty that threatened to disrupt the carefully constructed world she had embraced. The air was thick with tension, an unspoken battle of wills between mother and daughter, and as Serena prepared to return to the central administration building, she couldn't shake the feeling that her world was on the brink of profound change. Serena Brighton was a woman of conviction, a pillar of the gyno-fascist regime. Her actions were guided by a belief in the state's promise of order and prosperity, and she would do whatever it took to preserve that vision. Chapter 3: A Test of Conviction. Ellie Brighton was restless. The conversation with her mother the previous night lingered in her mind like a stubborn shadow, casting doubt over her beliefs. As she sat in the vast auditorium of the Academy of Social Harmony, the whispers of discontent that had taken root within her continued to grow. The Academy was an imposing structure, its design both modern and austere. It stood as a symbol of the regime's dedication to shaping the minds of the youth, ensuring they were molded into perfect adherence of the state's philosophy. The walls were adorned with portraits of past leaders, all women who had championed the ideals of gyno-fascism with unwavering fervor. Ellie found herself in a lecture hall, surrounded by peers who appeared engaged and eager. The lecturer, Professor Agnes Thorne, was a respected figure within the Academy, known for her unyielding support of the regime and her ability to inspire passion for its teaching. Today's lecture was on the importance of emotional conformity, a cornerstone of gyno-fascist ideology. Professor Thorne paced the stage, her voice commanding and persuasive. "Emotional conformity is not merely a guideline, it is a necessity," she declared, her gaze sweeping across the room. "In a society where emotions are aligned with the state's goals, we achieve harmony and unity. Those who resist this conformity sow discord and division." Ellie shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her mind wandered to the clandestine meetings she had attended with the Heart, the rebel group that sought to challenge the regime's authority. They were small gatherings, usually held in secret locations, where like-minded individuals dared to dream of a world where individuality was celebrated. But here, in the heart of the regime's educational machinery, Ellie felt the full weight of her rebellion pressing down on her. The regime's teachings were seductive, promising stability and prosperity, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that plagued her thoughts. After the lecture, Ellie made her way to the cafeteria, where the atmosphere buzzed with conversation. As she sat with her lunch, her mind continued to churn with conflicting emotions. It wasn't long before a familiar figure approached her table. Lila Harrington, one of Ellie's classmates and a staunch supporter of the regime, took a seat across from her. "Ellie," Lila began with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I heard you had a bit of a disagreement with your mother yesterday. Is everything all right?" Gaze, recognizing the subtle scrutiny behind her words. It was no secret that Lila was well connected within the academy, often serving as the eyes and ears of the administration. "It's nothing," Ellie replied, trying to sound dismissive. "Just a difference of opinion." Lila nodded, her expression sympathetic. "You know, the Council of Learned Elders is always willing to help students who might be struggling to align with our society's values. They've helped countless individuals find their way back to the path of harmony." Ellie stiffened at the mention of the council. The Council of Learned Elders was an enigmatic body of leaders, their influence extending into every facet of the regime's operations. They were revered and feared in equal measure, known for their ability to shape and mold the beliefs of the populace. "Thanks, but I'm fine," Ellie replied tersely, eager to end the conversation. Lila leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Just think about it, Ellie. They can offer guidance and support. It's never too late to realign your beliefs with what truly matters." With those parting words, Lila rose from the table and disappeared into the throng of students, leaving Ellie to grapple with her thoughts. Later that evening, Ellie found herself walking the familiar streets of Old Serendell, the historic district that stood in contrast to the modernity of the rest of the city. Here, the buildings were aged and worn, their facades telling stories of a time before the regime's rise to power. As she wandered, Ellie's mind was a storm of doubt and confusion. The regime's promises of peace and prosperity were seductive, and she couldn't deny the allure of a life free from the turmoil of rebellion. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sight of a small cafe tucked away on a quiet corner. The warm glow from its windows was inviting, and Ellie found herself drawn inside. The cafe was a refuge from the chaos of her mind, a place where she could escape the pressures that weighed so heavily on her. She settled into a corner booth, ordering a cup of herbal tea as she pondered her next steps. Ellie knew that her allegiance to the heart was not without risk. The regime was relentless in its pursuit of dissenters, and any misstep could have dire consequences. As Ellie sipped her tea, she noticed a woman sitting at the bar, a striking figure with long raven black hair and a gaze that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality. The woman exuded an air of confidence and mystery, her presence commanding attention. To Ellie's surprise, the woman approached her table, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "You must be Ellie Brighton," she said, her voice smooth and melodic. Ellie nodded, unsure of what to expect. "Yes, that's me. And you are?" The woman took a seat across from Ellie, her eyes never leaving Ellie's face. "My name is Evelyn Grace, and I represent the Council of Learned Elders. We've heard a lot about you, Ellie." Ellie's heart skipped a beat. The council, the very entity that sought to mold the thoughts and beliefs of the regime's citizens. The presence of Evelyn Grace was both intimidating and intriguing, and Ellie couldn't deny the curiosity that gnawed at her. "I understand you've been questioning some of our principles," Evelyn continued, her tone measured and gentle. "It's natural to have doubts, especially at your age. But I believe we can offer you something more than just answers." Ellie studied Evelyn, trying to discern her intentions. The council was known for its persuasive tactics, and Ellie was acutely aware of the danger that came with engaging with them. "What are you offering?" Ellie asked, her voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling within her. Evelyn leaned in, her eyes locking onto Ellie's. "Guidance, support, and a path to understanding. The regime has brought us peace and prosperity, and we believe you have the potential to be a valuable part of that vision." The temptation was palpable, a siren's call that tugged at Ellie's resolve. She knew that aligning with the regime would mean abandoning the heart and the ideals she had come to cherish. Yet, the promise of stability and acceptance was difficult to ignore. Evelyn's voice was soothing, her words carefully chosen to plant seeds of doubt in Ellie's mind. "You're a bright young woman, Ellie. The council sees great potential in you. We can help you find your place in our society, a place where your talents can truly shine. Ellie's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She longed for certainty, for a sense of belonging that seemed so elusive in her life. The regime's offer was enticing, a chance to escape the turmoil that plagued her thoughts. Yet, deep down, Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant for something more than conformity. The rebellion within her, though small and fragile, was a flame that refused to be extinguished. Evelyn Grace rose from her seat, leaving a small card on the table. "Think it over, Ellie. The council is always here to guide you when you're ready." As Evelyn walked away, Ellie picked up the card, studying the intricate emblem of the council etched into its surface. The choice before her was monumental, a decision that would shape the course of her life. The regime's promises were alluring, but Ellie knew that true freedom came at a price. The path of rebellion was fraught with danger. Yet it was a path she felt drawn to, a journey of self-discovery that defied the constraints of gyno-fascist ideology. As Ellie left the cafe and stepped into the cool night air, she realized that the battle for her soul had only just begun. The regime's grip on her was strong, but the desire for individuality and truth burned brighter than ever. In a world where conformity reigned supreme, Ellie Brighton stood at a crossroads, her heart torn between the promise of acceptance and the call of rebellion. And as the stars twinkled overhead, Ellie knew that her journey had only just begun, a journey that would test her convictions and challenge the very fabric of her beliefs. Chapter 4: The Power of Conviction. The streets of Serendel were alive with anticipation. Banners adorned with the emblem of the regime fluttered in the evening breeze, and the city's citizens gathered en masse, eager to witness a speech that promised to reinforce the core values of the gyno-fascist state. The atmosphere was electric, a palpable sense of unity that resonated through the air like a drumbeat. At the heart of the city stood the Grand Forum of Social Harmony, an imposing structure that served as a testament to the regime's power and influence. Tonight, the forum would host a pivotal event, an address by Evelyn Grace, a figure renowned for her fiery rhetoric and unwavering dedication to the ideals of gyno-fascism. As the hour approached, the forum's expansive plaza filled with thousands of supporters, each wearing the crimson scarves that signified loyalty to the regime. The crowd buzzed with excitement, their eyes fixed on the stage where Evelyn Grace would soon appear. In a modest living room not far from the forum, Ellie Brighton sat alongside her mother, Serena. The room was dimly lit, the only source of illumination coming from the flickering screen of the television. Ellie's heart raced as she watched the scene unfold, her mind still reeling from the encounter with Evelyn earlier that day. "Ellie dear, come sit with me," Serena called from the couch, patting the space beside her. "We mustn't miss Evelyn's speech. She always knows just what to say." Ellie obliged, though the tension in her chest made it difficult to sit still. Her thoughts were a tangled web of uncertainty and fear, the memory of Evelyn's words haunting her with their subtle implications. The broadcast shifted to the stage at the forum, where Evelyn Grace stood poised and confident before the throng of supporters. Her presence commanded attention, a beacon of authority that drew the eyes of the nation. She wore a tailored crimson suit that matched the scarves of her supporters, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall of midnight silk. "Citizens of Serendel," Evelyn began, her voice amplified by the speakers that lined the plaza. "Tonight, we gather to reaffirm our commitment to a society built on the principles of strength, unity, and unwavering conviction." The crowd erupted into applause, their fervor a testament to the influence Evelyn wielded. Ellie watched in silence, her stomach churning with unease as she braced herself for the speech that would test her resolve. "Today, more than ever, we must recognize the importance of emotional conformity," Evelyn continued, her gaze sweeping over the audience with calculated precision. "Our society thrives when emotions are aligned with our collective goals. In this harmony, we find our true strength." Ellie's heart sank. Evelyn's words mirrored the themes of the day's lecture, echoing the very principles that had sparked Ellie's internal conflict. The speech felt personal, as if Evelyn were addressing Ellie directly, her rhetoric a veiled challenge to the young woman's wavering loyalty. Serena watched the broadcast with rapt attention, nodding along to Evelyn's declarations. "She's right, you know," Serena said softly, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Emotional conformity ensures peace and prosperity for all. It's something you should consider, Ellie." Ellie's fingers clenched the fabric of her dress, her knuckles turning white with tension. But what about individuality, Mom? Shouldn't people be allowed to think for themselves? Serena sighed, her expression a mixture of exasperation and concern. Individuality is important, Ellie, but not at the cost of societal harmony. We must all do our part to ensure the greater good. Evelyn's speech continued, her voice a symphony of persuasion that resonated with the crowd. We cannot afford to allow discordant elements to disrupt the fabric of our society, she declared, her eyes narrowing as if searching for dissenters among the masses. Those who question our principles must be guided back to the path of unity, for it is there that they will find true purpose. Ellie's pulse quickened, her thoughts a whirlwind of panic and defiance. The phrase discordant elements felt like a direct reference to their earlier conversation, a subtle reminder that the regime was always watching, always listening. Evelyn paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the crowd. In times of uncertainty, we must look to the counsel of learned elders for guidance. We must trust in their wisdom and embrace the teachings that have brought us prosperity and peace. The applause was deafening, a resounding affirmation of the regime's hold over its people. Ellie felt the walls closing in around her, the pressure to conform an ever-present force that threatened to suffocate her individuality. Serena turned to Ellie, her gaze softened by a mother's love. You'll see, Ellie, Evelyn and the council know what's best for us. They have the wisdom to lead us to a brighter future. Ellie smiled, though her mind was elsewhere. The speech had ignited a fire within her, a burning desire to break free from the chains of conformity and seek the truth that lay beyond the regime's carefully constructed facade. As the broadcast concluded and the living room fell into silence, Ellie knew she couldn't remain idle. The regime's influence was a looming specter, one that sought to crush her spirit and reshape her beliefs. But Ellie refused to be a pawn in their game, a puppet dancing to the strings of those in power. With determination etched into her every move, Ellie excused herself from the room, claiming the need for fresh air. Serena nodded, her trust in the regime's teachings blinding her to the storm brewing within her daughter. Ellie felt the cool night air wash over her, a temporary balm to the chaos that churned within. Her thoughts turned to Marcus, a steadfast ally in the rebellion and a beacon of hope in the darkness that threatened to engulf her. Ellie navigated the winding streets with practiced ease, her footsteps guided by the unwavering resolve that pulsed through her veins. She arrived at a small park, nestled between towering buildings, a secluded haven where the whisper of rebellion could take root. Marcus was already waiting, his silhouette framed by the glow of a nearby street lamp. He was a tall and imposing figure, his presence a reassuring anchor in a world fraught with uncertainty. Ellie, Marcus greeted, his voice a low rumble that resonated with warmth. I wasn't sure you'd make. Ellie nodded, her heart pounding with a mixture of relief and anticipation. I had to get away, Marcus. Evelyn's speech. It was like she was speaking directly to me. She knows, Marcus. She knows I'm questioning everything. Marcus's expression darkened, the weight of their shared burden evident in his eyes. The regime is tightening its grip, Ellie. They're relentless in their pursuit of conformity. But we won't let them silence us. We'll fight for what's right, no matter the cost. Ellie's resolve hardened, her fear tempered by the flame of rebellion that burned within her. She knew the path she had chosen was fraught with danger, but it was a path she would walk with unwavering determination. In a world where conformity reigned supreme, they dared to dream of a future where individuality and truth prevailed. Chapter 5. The Harmony Nexus. The imposing structure of Feminine Technologies stood starkly against the twilight sky, its glass facade reflecting the last rays of the setting sun. Inside, the atrium buzzed with anticipation for the unveiling of a revolutionary new technology, the Harmony Nexus, a brain implant designed to bind every citizen's thoughts and emotions into a unified stream of consciousness. As the evening event commenced, the Grand Hall was filled with a mix of high-ranking officials, influential technologists, and eager journalists. The air was thick with the smell of anticipation and the sterile scent of the latest technological advancements. At the center of it all, Evelyn Grace, resplendent in her crimson suit, took the stage with an aura of undeniable authority. Citizen Stell, Evelyn began, her voice amplified by the surrounding speakers. Tonight, we unveil a new era of unity and efficiency, the Harmony Nexus. This technology will synchronize our thoughts and emotions, ensuring a perfectly harmonious society. The The screen lit up with graphics of the Harmony Nexus implant, a sleek metallic device designed to be embedded directly into the brain. The implant promised to create a collective consciousness, aligning every individual's mental and emotional state with the regime's ideology. The crowd erupted into applause, but Ellie Brighton watched with mounting unease. She had heard whispers of the new technology, but witnessing it firsthand was far more disturbing than she had anticipated. Evelyn's enthusiasm was unwavering as she continued. To demonstrate the Harmony Nexus, we have prepared a live experiment. Witness firsthand how this technology will integrate an individual into our collective harmony. A team of technicians wheeled out a gurney, and on it lay a young woman, her face contorted in a mixture of fear and resignation. The woman's name, as Evelyn announced, was Mara, and she had volunteered to be the first subject of the Harmony Nexus. The announcement was met with an uneasy murmur from the audience, quickly silenced by Evelyn's commanding presence. As Mara was prepared for the procedure, the audience was given a closer look at the device. It was a small metallic implant with fine needle-like projections intended to interface with the brain's neural pathways. The Harmony Nexus promised to eliminate discord by forcibly aligning the subject's thoughts and emotions with those of the collective. The medical team, dressed in sterile white uniforms, began the procedure. Ellie's stomach churned as the scene unfolded before her. The lead technician made an incision at the base of Mara's skull with a precision scalpel. The cut was deep, revealing the glistening interior of the skull. Mara's eyes were wide with terror as she was sedated, but her fear was palpable, even in her unconscious state. Evelyn's voice continued to project over the loudspeakers, her tone almost cheerful as she narrated the procedure. The Harmony Nexus will be implanted into the subject's brain, where it will interface with her neural networks. This integration will synchronize her mental and emotional state with the collective harmony. The implantation was brutal. The technicians inserted the device with a series of mechanical clicks and hisses, the metallic implant burrowing into the exposed brain matter. Mara's body twitched involuntarily as the device was connected, the procedure causing a visible struggle beneath her skin. Her breathing became labored, and the monitor next to her displayed erratic spikes as the Harmony Nexus began its work. Evelyn's smile did not falter as she continued. As you can see, the Harmony Nexus is already beginning to align Mara's thoughts with our collective consciousness. This will ensure that she is perfectly in tune with our societal goals. The crowd's applause was hesitant, their initial excitement waning as the graphic nature of the procedure became clear. The technicians, unmoved by the spectacle, completed the operation with clinical efficiency, sealing Mara's incision with a series of stitches. Once the procedure was complete, Mara's eyes fluttered open. The once palpable fear was now replaced with an unsettling calm. Her eyes, though open, seemed vacant, reflecting the effects of the Harmony Nexus. Evelyn stepped forward, her face glowing with triumph. "Let us witness the results," Evelyn declared. She placed a hand on Mara's shoulder, her gaze piercing and assured. "With the Harmony Nexus now integrated, Mara is part of our unified consciousness. Her thoughts and emotions will be aligned with ours, ensuring a society of perfect harmony." The room was silent as the audience observed the transformed subject. Mara's once fearful expression was replaced by a serene, almost mechanical calm. Her interactions with those around her were devoid of individual expression, a clear sign of the Harmony Nexus's success. Ellie's heart pounded as she watched the scene unfold. The brutal reality of the procedure was far removed from the polished narrative Evelyn presented. The Harmony Nexus was not just a tool for synchronization, it was an instrument of control, capable of erasing individuality and dissent with cold precision. As the event concluded, Ellie's mind raced with the implications of what she had witnessed. The Harmony Nexus was a chilling reminder of the regime's power to enforce conformity. And the sight of Mara's transformation was a stark warning of what awaited those who resisted. Leaving Femine's building, Ellie felt the weight of the regime's machinations bearing down on her. The Harmony Nexus was a tool of oppression, a technological marvel designed to eradicate dissent and reshape society in its own image. Determined to resist the regime's control, Ellie knew that the fight for individuality and freedom was far from over. The Harmony Nexus was a symbol of the regime's relentless pursuit of dominance, and Ellie was resolute in her commitment to challenge its oppressive reach. As she walked through the darkened streets of Serendel, Ellie's resolve hardened. The Harmony Nexus might have been a technological breakthrough for the regime, but for her, It was a call to action, a reminder that the struggle for truth and freedom was a battle worth fighting. Chapter 6: The Radio Challenge. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the city of Serendell as Ellie Brighton sat at her desk at the Institute of Feminine Studies, trying to focus on her work. The room was filled with the hum of office activity, but Ellie's mind was elsewhere, preoccupied with the disturbing images from the Harmony Nexus demonstration. In the background, the soft chatter of a radio talk show provided a white noise of sorts. The show, hosted by Radio Seren, had become a regular fixture for many citizens, often featuring prominent figures discussing the latest developments in the regime. Today's guest was none other than Evelyn Grace, the architect of the Harmony Nexus and a key figure in the gyno-fascist regime. The host's voice cut through Ellie's thoughts. And now, we're joined by Evelyn Grace, who's here to discuss the groundbreaking Harmony Nexus technology. Evelyn, thank you for being with me. Thank you for having me, Evelyn replied, her voice smooth and confident. It's a pleasure to discuss our progress and answer questions from our... The conversation began with Evelyn extolling the virtues of the Harmony Nexus and its benefits for societal harmony. Ellie, feeling a surge of frustration and defiance, couldn't sit idly by. She decided to make a call-in during the show, hoping to challenge Evelyn directly. Ellie picked up the phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she dialed the number for the show. After a brief wait, a producer's voice crackled in her ear. "You're on with Evelyn Grace. Please state your name and your question." Ellie took a deep breath, and using an assumed name, spoke clearly. "Hi, I'm Jenna from North Serendell. I have a question for Evelyn Grace. Why doesn't she get the Harmony Nexus implant herself? If it's as beneficial as she claims, shouldn't she be the first to demonstrate its effectiveness?" There was a brief pause on the other end of the line before Evelyn's voice responded, tinged with a defensive edge. "Well, Jenna, that's an interesting question. As I've explained before, the Harmony Nexus is designed for the greater good. My role is to oversee its implementation and ensure it serves its purpose effectively. My personal choice in this matter doesn't diminish the benefits it offers to society." Ellie pressed on, her tone insistent. "But isn't it a bit hypocritical to promote a technology that you yourself aren't willing to experience? Shouldn't you lead by example?" Evelyn's voice tightened as she answered. "It's not about hypocrisy. It's about leadership and responsibility. My role is to guide and implement these advancements, not to become a test subject." The host, sensing the rising tension, interjected. "Evelyn, perhaps you could address the concerns about transparency. Some listeners feel that a public demonstration would bolster confidence in the Harmony Nexus." Evelyn's composure wavered slightly. "Well, if the people believe it would help, then perhaps I will consider undergoing the procedure. I'll make a decision about it during the upcoming national address before the Grand Gyno-Fascist Gala." The conversation continued, but Ellie's mind was racing. Evelyn's equivocation was a small victory, but it did not ease her growing sense of dread. As the segment concluded and the show ended, Ellie hung up the phone, her heart pounding with a mix of relief and apprehension. Back at home, Serena Brighton had been listening in on the same radio show. The mention of the name Jenna struck a chord with her, and when Ellie's voice came through the radio, Serena's face turned ashen with anger. The defiance in Ellie's voice was unmistakable. Furious and feeling betrayed, Serena confronted Ellie when she returned home. The air crackled with tension as Serena's voice rose in anger. "How dare you challenge Evelyn Grace on live radio? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Ellie, trying to maintain her composure, faced her mother. "I was only trying to get answers, to hold the regime accountable.